Welcome to By All Means Necessary Real Recovery Talk. I'm Marco Murillo, and I'm a grateful recovering addict. This is episode 6. We have a special guest in the studio today. Harry, how you doing, bro?
I'm doing pretty good, Marco.
It's
Thank you for having
good to
me.
finally meet you.
Yes.
Harry has 6 years clean. We have a really tight mutual friend that's in recovery that introduced us, and we spoke on the phone about a week ago.
Yes.
So why don't you just, share your experience, strength, and hope? Where were you born? Where are you from? What was your family life like? Your childhood?
Well, I'm from Miami, Florida.
All right.
Born and raised here in Florida, which is not a common thing for a lot of people, right? I come from, my mom's Colombian, from Barranquilla, Colombia, and my dad was Jewish American. I don't have too much history on them. It wasn't like something that we used to talk about a lot. And, I know they met in Chicago and somehow they ended up in South Florida. My mom came as a refugee on a visa from Colombia, met my father in Chicago, and she helped bring a lot of my family members over. My father, he was real big on education. He dropped out of school in the 5th grade.
Okay.
And he used to really push that on us and sit us down at the table and make sure that, all our homework assignments were done. He was present in school. Like, he did a lot of awesome parenting stuff that, we after he passed later on, we really didn't experience after that.
Okay. All right. So, how old are you when your father passed away?
I was 10.
You were 10.
Yes.
All right. So when you're 10, your dad passed away, and he was clean. Did he drink or anything?
Yeah, he was an alcoholic.
Okay, so I think you were saying that he was he was a functional alcoholic. He would go to work, then hit the bar, and then he would come home and he would be present and he would do his thing. He would be a role model to you guys, and
Absolutely.
You actually looked up to him. You were telling me that,
Big
right?
time.
Yeah. And so when he passed away when you were 10, then you were with your mother, and that's when shit kind of got a little bit.
Well, not a little bit. It got a lot worse.
All right. So,
with
what happened?
My father present, it was still pretty bad. He had a routine. He'd wake up really early in the morning, 4 o'clock. He'd go to work. After work, 3, 4 o'clock, he'd go to the bar, hang out with his buddies, shoot a couple games of pool. He'd come home and then, we'd sit down and do homework. Mm-hmm. As I stated, sometimes by the time we got home, Mom already had found a reason to start beating on us. And, so it was 3 of us. It was me and my 2 older brothers. I'm the youngest. And, that's when the portable phones just came about and stuff like that. So 2 of us would have to distract my mom so one of us could get on the phone to call the bar so the bartender could tell my dad, hey, you got to get to the house. Your wife's beating the shit out of your kids again.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, so that was at least 2-3 times a week.
2-3 times a week.
Yeah. And then once Dad died, he died December 23rd, 1988. And wow, man, it was devastating. It devastated the whole family. Like, he was a real big crutch for the family. He was all-American man, hardworking. And, he'd do anything to help anybody.
Right.
And so we were playing outside. He called us in early that night around 8 o'clock. He said, he wasn't feeling good. He wanted to make sure we were home, get ready for school and bed. And, he went to sleep. He said he had a stomachache, went to sleep. And in the morning, he was gone. He was at the house. Yeah, he was. They went for an emergency to the hospital in the middle of the night. And, on December 22nd, and we never seen him again.
I'm sorry to hear that, man.
Yeah. And then that's when things really, really got ugly. Like, he used to help us out with our homework and stuff like that. We were all very, very good students in school, excelled, honor roll. He passed away. We didn't have nobody to help us with our homework. I don't think my mom was really educated in that area. So it was a little bit offensive when we would sit there and ask her a question and she didn't know what it was.
Right.
And it would set her off. So we would take 1 or 2 ass whoopings a day, and I'd just take one good one. So I stopped doing homework. I started acting up at school, and it got to a point where the counselors and nobody really picked up on what was going on. We were all angry. We were getting into fights. We just stopped doing whatever, and instead of maybe looking into it, I'm not trying to tell other people how to do the job. But damn, if you see something that was obviously something,
Yeah, you were doing great, and then shit
all
went
three
south.
of us.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
We're all
not
going
one.
to the same
Yeah,
school.
everybody.
Me and my middle brother would go to the same school. My older brother was a couple years ahead.
Okay.
But still, at that time, he was still in sixth grade or seventh grade, maybe. And nobody picked up on anything, man. My older brother kind of was out of the nets. My middle brother was whatever, and I was just super angry. I didn't understand anything, and I was the punching bag. So I was giving out what I was receiving.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. All right.
I was getting beat up and bullied by my brother and parents and my mom, and then I was angry. I had no one to take it out on. So and then I'd go to school, and anybody would say anything,
you get out.
Yeah, man. And so later on, they put us me and my middle brother into learning disability classes, and we just got away with murder. We didn't have to do anything. We didn't have to do any classwork. We didn't have to do any homework. We didn't have to do none of that. So just.
So you were basically you were in the streets then, basically, or
no, not in the streets. We still lived in a house.
No, I mean you were on, but you were more so on the streets, hanging out and stuff like that.
No, not at that time.
Okay.
We were still, kind of just being kids, but slowly but surely, making that wrong turn.
Okay.
Especially me and my older brother. My middle brother, he kind of walked in a different direction. He was just different, a little different. Me and my brother are really similar. We actually have the same birthday, 5 years apart. It's crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's super crazy. Right. And so our personalities are somewhat the same to an extent. And, I looked up to him like he was my dad, like my role model, and I wanted to be like him. And he took to the streets. He took to the delinquency, the gang stuff and all that. And I kind of picked up on that. Like I wanted to be just like him, you know what I mean? And I thought that was the lifestyle to live, and then also being Colombian and coming to the United States at that time, the American dream was to, sell 100 keys of cocaine and be the new Tony Montanas on the block. And that's kind of like the lifestyle that my cousins that came from Colombia lived.
Okay.
And so that aggressive, male, chauvinistic type lifestyle was very active.
Okay.
In our home, and it was very acceptable for the most part. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And,
all right.
So it's just a real, ugly, violent history. I don't remember too many good times that I had as a child. For the most part, everything was just fucking.
It was rough.
Oh,
it was rough, super rough.
Anytime we did anything good too, we still get our ass whooped. We went out. We went to Georgia on Mount Everest or something like that. There's some mountains that have not the presidents, but some other etched in the stones in the mountains and stuff like that. And we go to the gift shop. We're having a great time. And she goes and she finds like the biggest, thickest paddle to sit there and buy to threaten us with. You know what I mean? And that shit was broken that night. You know what I mean? Like, that's what you got. Broke it. It didn't last like 2 ass whoopings. It was crazy. And, it was just, but that was normal for us, for an extent, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't know any better. It wasn't talked about. It wasn't talked about within, the family members that much, and they wouldn't believe most of, like, the deep down aggressive type ass whoopings that we would get, you know what I mean? She just fucking smacked in the face, shut up, you know what I mean? And it was a little bit more than that, you know what I mean? It was a lot more than that.
No, you're getting abused.
Yeah,
That's physical abuse.
For sure.
Physical abuse.
For sure.
I mean, you told me about the stove, dude.
Yeah, so, that was a big thing, right? And we were scared. We were never allowed to talk about anything, you know what I mean? So at the end of the day, it was like, if you ever tell anybody anything that's going on outside of this house, I promise you, that's your ass. And then she said, she would turn on the stove. I think it was a commercial at that time about reporting child abuse. And that was what the commercial was based on, a hot stove, and something about burning the hand. And I think that's where she got the idea from.
Yeah.
And she used to tell us that. And I had every reason to believe her, you know what I mean?
So what about high school? What was high school like for you?
So we were in learning disability. They just moved us right along 5th, 6th grade. High school was kind of challenging. We moved at that present time. We moved neighborhoods, so it was a complete different group of new friends that we were starting to build, friendships that we're starting to build in the neighborhood and stuff like that. And Just got into, kind of like the bad crowd, the guys 15, 16 years old, all the ones that are smoking across the street before
Smoking weed?
No, cigarettes, and
cigarettes.
weed or whatever, you know what I
Okay.
mean? But
All right.
really like smoking, doing
Yeah.
what the, I guess the bad group of kids do, across the street. Eating
Right.
shit, whatever. And then, later on, through my brother, I started to understand a little bit more about the drugs and what they do. Somewhat, that people would want it or need it. So I got into that. I would break into his car, steal his roaches, and figure out, other ways to do things and hustle. And so I got into that in school, and then I met somebody in school that introduced me to more drugs, right? He introduced me to weed, and he showed me how to, break down an ounce into nickel bags. And
So you were selling?
Yeah, weed.
You were selling weed?
Yeah.
All right. So you started...
Like in the middle of my first year in high school.
Were you smoking or you just selling?
I was smoking. Yeah,
So
I was out there.
You were out. Oh, you were out. So this is you were out on the street.
Yeah,
you were doing your thing.
Yeah, at that time I think the drugs that were going around were obviously weed and like Roche's. I wasn't really into cocaine. Roche's like a Xanax type of 100. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
Like you'd always wake up in jail or fucking you didn't know what happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they tell you how much of an ass you were.
Yeah.
And so got into that. I remember being curious about cocaine because my brother and his friends would bring it around and he would threaten to, beat the hell out of us if we were to ever try it. So it made it even more curious.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
what is that?
shit?
You know what I mean? And then, and him and his friends were real social with it. And I noticed they passed the bag around or whatnot. But, it was the forbidden like fruit, And so once I discovered that, right? Like I got into an argument with my middle brother and I threw something at him. I missed and I broke the sliding glass door. My mom called the cops. They took me to jail because I was being a smart ass for battery. And so I went to juvie. A couple of days in juvie, sitting there watching TV in the day room. Something falls out of the corrections officer's pocket. Looked like a pack of wraps. It was a pack of wraps. It was the gold wraps, the J&B or whatever it is.
Okay.
With the red letters.
Yeah.
And it had it was pregnant. And I did the whole foot on the
thing.
And slid it over and my bunkie was sitting next to me and we both went to the room to try to see what it was and it was a bag of coke and he kind of broke it down to me all right, this is what you got to do. My brother sells it. You got to crush it and get it into a fine powder so that you can consume it. And
this is in juvie.
In juvie.
Okay, so so is this the first time you tried it?
Yeah, 14, 15.
14, 15 in juvie.
Yeah.
And how was that shit?
I took a couple bumps, man, and it just gave me this overwhelming, just wow feeling. Mm-hmm. Something like I'd never felt before, like an immediate rush. And so I immediately kind of panicked, and they had the metal toilets, and it had a crack on the bottom of it, where the caulking was missing, and I slid it under there.
Okay.
And I never found it again. I really think my roommate got to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Since he knew so much about it.
Yeah.
But so a little bit after that, I got out, and I just went in there for 2 weeks. I got out. I didn't really mess with it, and then I'd hang out with older people that would kind of try to take advantage of me because I had drugs, right? Mm. So there was this one guy, Eddie, that I met, and he knew where to get it. Mm. And so I started getting into that there. Then later on, the same guy that was selling me weed would find me that, and then, eventually I started selling it to my brothers and finding different hookups.
So you're selling coke now?
Yeah, for
and
sure.
Were you doing it?
Yeah, of course.
Damn. So you were getting high.
But it was fun at that time.
Yeah, so it
functional.
wasn't killing you yet.
For sure. Well, for sure.
But I mean, you can get high in your own supply, but you're still selling, you're making money, and you're doing it at the same time.
For sure. I wasn't dealing with the consequences of any of that yet,
okay.
Right? I didn't know what peeping was. I didn't know any of that, right? And then eventually, as I continued to get high with my older brother, I noticed he would start peeping out the windows and shut up, and he wouldn't give me back the bag of coke, and he'd fucking grab a knife, and he couldn't talk, and fucking the beer and the cigarette. I was super out of it, Yeah. And I'm like, what the fuck is he looking at? And then ever since then I peeped, bro. And it fucked everything up forever, So I never. it was never a fun thing after that. Too much, you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, of course.
And
of course.
So throughout that process, like you try to find like the right chemical balance. Oh, all right, a little bit of weed, maybe half a pill,
Just to get
a couple
you right,
bumps
yeah,
to try to
right,
you know
yeah.
function.
Exactly.
You know, and it was just always, you know, that game, and still the consequences weren't very bad. You know, anytime my mom needed anything, she would go and she'd go through my shit. She'd find my weed or find whatever I had, and she'd take it, and then I would have to bribe her to get it back. You know, instead of just telling me she wanted some money to go do whatever. You know.
All right. Did you go to college down in Miami?
I never went to college.
You never went to college?
I graduated from prison. Calhoun CI in the
Wait,
Panhandle.
you graduated from prison?
Yeah, high school.
Okay, high school.
Yep.
All right. So, when you got out, when did you? Tell me the story about when you started getting into like being a bouncer. Like, how did that happen? What did you do there?
So slowly but surely, you know, I started working. I was never really a successful drug dealer.
Okay.
And in order to support my habit too, right, I needed to find other ways to get money. And so I got into restaurants. And then in the restaurants, I met the mother of my child, Amber, who had a best friend named Alexis that we used to all work in the restaurant for a couple years. And she met somebody who hooked her up at a job at a club called Pink Pony in Doral.
Okay.
And she was a beer tub girl. So she'd stand by the front door with a big old beer tub with a bunch of different beers, and she'd sell them, like try to get the people right when they're in to get them a beer.
Right.
And
this is a strip club.
a strip club.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Okay. All right.
it was a good one at that time. And so eventually they needed a bar back, you know, and so I qualified for the job, right? I went and I tried to get into the bar back position, which I did, and slowly but surely, you know, I'm a big guy. Now I'm, 6'5", 300 pounds. Probably back then I was probably like a good 260, 270, you know, and so I got into that, and then eventually, you know, I pushed for the bouncer thing, and I got into the bouncer thing, and I did that for a good 14 years, man. And
14 years.
Yeah. 13, 14 years
so
in and out.
So were you using this whole 14 years as well?
Oh my God, bro! That was drug, sex, and rock and roll. That was like.
And what was your
anything, anything a drug addict could ever ask for?
What was your DOC?
Cocaine.
Cocaine.
Yeah, absolutely.
So cocaine down in Miami. You're a bouncer at a strip club.
Tipped with fucking 8 balls and quarter ounces just to get somebody a table. You know,
That's
snorting
insane,
with everybody, snorting with the other bouncers, the managers, the strippers.
And so, how did this all like? It's 14 years. What was this? Is this when you told me the story about like when it was your day off or something like that?
So
what's that? That story's crazy, dude.
Yeah. So definitely, right. So I did the bouncer thing. It was a total of 14 years, right. So I was on and off, and then I'd get out of control in that world, and then I had to, you know, go back to serving tables and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So at this particular time, life was still spiraling out of control. I believe I still had an open case of a friend or an acquaintance of my brother's that I tried to take some weed and a Rolex from, and I got in trouble for that. So that was an open case. And then I was working at a restaurant at the time. Me and my buddy were selling coke, my best friend. You know, we had a good night. We sold all the coke pretty fast. And then we decided to, you know, maybe go to a strip club. We haven't been in a strip club together for a long time. I know that she worked at
This your girlfriend?
The mother of my son.
The mother of your okay. All right.
So she wasn't my girlfriend at the
time.
time.
All right. She's the mother of your son.
For sure. So I was having issues with her already because I was in jail. And then she was already working in the club too. And you know, I knew she was, you know, seeing other people, and I kept she was living in my mom's house with me, and I would constantly tell her, you know, like, just leave, you know what I mean? Like, I know you're messing with other people. There's no need for you to sit here and try to act like you want to be my girlfriend, you know? Yeah. And she continued to deny it, and, you know, made it sound like it was the drugs, and I was crazy. I don't know what I was talking about. So eventually, push comes to shove, right? We have a good night, you know, selling coke. She's not working at that particular club. It's downtown Miami. It was a 24-hour club. She wasn't there that night. Me and my buddy go over there. We sit down, have a couple drinks. Everybody knows us. Me, a couple of people from the neighborhood worked there too, some other girls, some bartenders and stuff, and they haven't seen me for a while. And so I come in, and just the rumors start coming out, man, and oh my God, like, hey, so and so, she's just off the chain, this, that, the other, and like, man, I'm not trying to hear that shit. And at the same time, like, I'm drinking, I'm getting high, and then my mind's already racing. Now I feel like an idiot, because I'm at this place and I feel like everybody's laughing at me, and so I go home upset, and I just in my mind, and I continue to get high. I really try to kind of blow my heart up, man. I just wanted to die, man. And
at this point, really, that's
for
what
sure.
you thought, dude?
Yeah, a few times.
Yeah,
I tried to kill myself, man. I watched, my life just spiraling out of control, and there was nothing I could do about it, and I just hated it, man. She found me in the car when I ate like 100 Xanax, woke up in the hospital, pissed off, fuck. Fuck, you should have let me die, fuck. I was mad as shit, man. I just didn't, fuck. It was crazy. So, back to the club, right? So I go out, I leave the club, I go home, I get the rest of the drugs that I have and the liquor, and I start drinking and just shoving stuff up my nose, and I get the wild idea that, that I'm gonna go show her, who's boss and who she was messing with. And, I came up with the decision that I was gonna go ahead and I was gonna kill her, and then I was gonna kill myself after. So I stole my roommate's car. I went to her house. It was hurricane season. It was October. The windows were boarded up. I think we just had like a hurricane scare. And thank God, she wasn't there. She was at Columbus Day Regatta with, I guess, the other guy she was messing with at the time. And I broke into the house, destroyed it. I went there with some knives and hammer, and I lost all that within my madness of the house. Long story short, they come home a couple days later. I was passed out by the front door. The guy that she was with opened the door. He saw that I was there. He kind of jumped back a little bit. I grabbed her by the scruff of her shirt. I pulled her in the house, and I told her that, I was going to kill her. And, I grabbed her by the scruff of her shirt. I tried to ragdoll her a little bit, and I pushed her, and she clipped the corner of her couch and fractured her clavicle. And, I tried to run out the house, got into a physical altercation with the gentleman. I left. Later on, I decided I was going to try to finish the job, so I come back, and I was hiding in the closet, and the cops came, raided the house, found me in the house. I never really been in serious trouble. And, I didn't really have clear memory of the situations that happened at hand. Like, it was kind of sporadic, like I think moments of blacking out and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And, anytime I've been to jail, some bullshit, misdemeanor or whatever, I was like, I'll be out of here in 2-3 days.
Okay.
Being a jerk to the COs and stuff like that, crumbling up the paper, I don't give a fuck. Whatever. I'll go in 21 days, 35 days back, so I'll be out.
Right.
And I go.
So what were you looking at? Like what?
So I go. I didn't know, right? I didn't know. I just knew I didn't have bond at the time, so I was like, fuck.
Oh, you didn't even have bond.
I didn't. Like, that's all I knew.
Okay.
I didn't know my charges or nothing. I lost the paper.
Okay.
Right? And so I slept for like 2-3 days, and then when I wake up in the fog, I'm like, fuck, where's the paper? Let me see how serious this is.
Yeah.
And I couldn't find it. And then finally, when I go to court in 21 days, the judge goes ahead and reads off the charges. I have 7 capital offenses and, a few other felonies, man. And
7 capital offenses?
Capital offenses with no
and
bond.
And a few felon and no bond.
Burglary, armed burglary, kidnapping, felony battery because there was an injury.
Right.
So I'm sitting there, and when the judge tells me and all my charges and I have no bond, and if found guilty in a court of law, I'm facing life plus 136 years, I still get goosebumps.
Life plus 136.
Yeah, if found guilty in a court of law, I was like, oh, fuck. Like, now I really knew I was into something. So immediately the first thought that I had was like, how am I gonna kill myself? I'm not going to prison for all this time. I ain't gonna be nobody's bitch. Fuck that shit. You know what I mean? And And that wasn't something that I was willing to do. And, I had to try to figure something out, man. And,
So what did you figure out? Like, what is this the point where you had to look at yourself in the mirror and be like, look, man, something's got to give.
I'm fucked. Yeah, for sure. Guaranteed.
Yeah.
So like my whole mentality was like, fuck, like how am I going to get out of this one? You know what I mean? Like I'm just crazy. So I try to play psych role. I fired a couple lawyers like along the thing, trying to
postpone
to create confusion within the case or whatnot. It's funny, right? Like I'm sitting in the county jail, so they take you to the third floor, which is the catwalk. So all the other jails they bring in there when they have to go to court. And I see my brother like 3 times in the catwalk, you know? Yeah. And anytime we would go to jail, like we would try to find each other within the cells. If he wasn't in there, I was in there. And I just...
So what ends up happening? How much time did you get?
So I did like 19 months, and they wanted me to go get a prison number. So they gave me 18 months with 5 years probation, early termination. Upon paying restitution, the restitution was for the watch and the stuff from the guy that I robbed, which was still an open case. I went ahead and pleaded out to that. So I went to state prison. After I did like 2 months in state prison, I got my number, came back home, probation. I was getting high within 2-3 weeks. Violated probation. I was on the run for a little bit. They picked me up, went back to jail. They tried to give me 90 days, and they were going to reinstate me back on probation, and I asked them for a different plea offer, and they gave me 18 months. So I figured, all right, maybe I could go back to prison again, and this time I could try to do something a little different to educate myself in a different way so that, I'm fucked, right? So I got to figure something out because this isn't something that I want to do.
So let's do this. I'm going to bring you back
for sure.
All right, and then we're gonna continue from this point on. All right,
for sure.
I appreciate you coming in, man.
Yeah, awesome, right? Man. Thank you for having me.
No, of course. If you like the contents of this video, please like on Facebook, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and if you have any questions or anything you want to talk about in terms of addiction or recovery, you can email me at BAMNRealRecoveryTalk@gmail.com. All right. Thanks a lot. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks again.
Thanks. Bye. Yep.